Welcome. There we go. There I am. I'm Sally Kimmel. I'm the Executive Director of Envision Athens. Envision Athens was created in 2018 to push forward a 20-year plan to help Athens continue to be a great place to work and live. I've been with Envision, it'll be about 3 years in April, and we have a couple things that we work on. Let me skip to that one. There, oh, that's happening. We have a couple things that we work on, and our decision to work on these pillars of what we call them to work on came from the Athens Wellbeing Project, the Wellbeing Project, and the incredible work that they do in collecting data from our community in a most robust and scientifically measurable way. They're in the process of collecting data right now that will then be put out to our community later this year. It's really important for us as community members and then those who impact folks and work with folks in our community to provide data to the Athens Wellbeing Project so they can have a good picture about what's really happening in Athens and see what rises to the top of what we need to focus on. And that's where Envision came from and how we got to where we are today. And what we're working on is through data collected through the Athens Wellbeing Project. If you like QR codes, and there's a ton of them here today, here's one that would take you to the survey. I'm sure you can find it on the Athens Wellbeing Project website, the Wellbeing Project website. I know they had a recent name change as they've expanded their scope of service. Also, the Athens Area Community Foundation, I'm sure, has that information as well. As we worked with the Athens Wellbeing Project in 2022, when I came on board with Envision Athens, we narrowed our scope to 5 pillars. And so these are the pillars that we work with. There's Create Athens, which focuses on art and culture. There's Abundance Athens, that focuses on food security. Educate Athens, which is workforce development. Healthy Athens, which is mental health and substance use disorder. And the one we're here to speak about, focus on today, is House Athens, which focuses on affordable housing and homelessness. Because Envision Athens has this direction to focus on homelessness, I became connected with the Athens Homeless Coalition. I'm going to introduce Michael Bean in just a second. He can give y'all some more information about the Athens Homeless Coalition. But that's the connection between Envision Athens and the Athens Homeless Coalition. The work that we do is similar. However, the Athens Homeless Coalition focuses strictly on homelessness and affordable housing in Athens. Before we move on to that, I just have to bring in some gratitude in the room. There's so many people and agencies and organizations that helped us be here today. So many that I had to list them down. So let me look at my list. First of all, I want to thank you all as being community members. You're concerned, and there is reason for concern. And you give back, and you want to make a contribution to this community. We live in this community, we work in this community, we love this community. And I am so thankful that you care enough about this issue to be here today and to learn more, and then to give your input as well. I'm thankful to Cole Shackelford and his crew at More Creative. They've done all of our marketing for this as we Envision Athens continues in community conversations for several events that we're having this year. I'm thankful to the ladies up front and registration table, some UGA students who've been helpful moving forward with UGA. Envision Athens has a diverse group of funders, so I have to say thank you to them. We're primarily funded through a community partnership program grant through the Athens-Clarke County government. We're also funded through agencies like St. Mary's, Piedmont, Chamber of Commerce, Athens Area, Athens Housing Authority, City of Winterville, yes, that sounds right, Georgia Power as well. I've got to say thank you to Epting Events for hosting us. They do an amazing job. Yeah, this is the third event we've had here. We're going to have I think 4 more before the end of the summer, so by the end of June. So we're super excited to have those here. I've got to thank our panel. I'm super organized and can be a little assertive and anal about presentations. And so I've been emailing them, we've been practicing things, and I truly appreciate not only your time here today, but also your wisdom to the calls and your collaborative efforts that I've worked with each of y'all on. So I truly appreciate that as well. Thank you to my husband for putting up with me as I get to this part and keeping me laughing. So, yeah, right? Keep us laughing. Sorry. Oh, so bad. Okay. Without further ado, I want to introduce Michael Bean. The Athens Homeless Coalition, we were asked to pull together a board of directors this time last year, and we had orientation around this time last year, and we were directed by the strategic plan to reduce and prevent homelessness through Athens-Clarke County government to find an executive director, create a board of directors, and then support that executive director as they do all the many different facets that Michael's going to talk about. We had several amazing people apply to the job. Michael stood out among all of them. Some of y'all know him in the community and the work that he's already done. He is tied to Athens. He loves Athens, and I can't think of a better person for this job. It's been my joy to work with Michael. So, Michael Bean, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Michael Bean. I'm the Executive Director of the Athens Homeless Coalition. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about our coalition and some of the work that we're doing before we introduce our amazing panelists. Athens Homeless Coalition is a nonprofit 501c3, like Sally said, established roughly a year ago with our incredible board of directors. We are an action-oriented, nonpartisan nonprofit dedicated to leading community efforts to prevent, reduce, and address the challenges related to homelessness.
Woo! I know that's right.
Feel free to shout out like that anytime. That'll keep us going today. So Sally mentioned our board, and I just want to give props to our board members. These folks started doing work months before I was even hired. We are a working board. This is an action-oriented board doing a lot of hard work and a lot of the behind-the-scenes things that we never see. So some of the work that we're doing, they're deeply involved in, dedicating their time and expertise generously. However, our board does a lot of other work too, reaching out to faith-based organizations, maintaining our website and social media so everyone is getting cutting-edge news and current events, weather reports, resources related to freezing cold weather that we've been sending out recently, and just doing a lot of amazing efforts. People with lived experience. You'll hear more about it over the course of this morning. So I do want to recognize our board members. So please, board members, please stand up. Our board is fundamental to the success of the Athens Homeless Coalition. We could never do this work without them, and they are purely working on a volunteer basis, so I cannot thank the board enough. So I'm going to speak very briefly about some of our current projects. We have a lot going on, and I'd be glad to talk in more detail after this meeting or after my presentation, but I'm just going to touch on a few really quickly. Coordinated entry is a system to quickly assess individuals and families experiencing homelessness and promote the process of referring them to appropriate and eligible housing solutions. This is a process that takes place in communities all over the country. What we're doing is upgrading and completely revamping our coordinated entry system. We're the only community in Georgia to be doing this, and really just a handful across the country that is not using the dated, decades-old system. This new system is more equitable, more efficient, and more user-friendly. And that last one is really important because that means we're expanding the ability to reach out, assist people, and enter them into a system to refer them to housing solutions, to expand that reach beyond just shelters and traditional HUD-funded service providers to include the police department, the sheriff's department, schools, hospitals, and other agencies that aren't currently part of this process. So one of our board members, Cole Shackelford, has been doing incredible work developing our new coordinated entry tool. It's completely innovative, it's completely customized to Athens, and our goal is to launch this system, begin pilot testing within the next month. Something I'm really proud of, I'm going to take a second to talk about permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing is the gold standard for housing solutions for individuals and families experiencing homelessness with the greatest level of need and with the highest level of complex challenges and barriers to housing. What I did is put together a diverse team of local service providers, community members, subject matter experts, real estate experts, and applied for something called the Georgia Supportive Housing Initiative. This is the inaugural year for this initiative. It was a competitive process. 26 teams applied, 6 were selected. Athens is one of those teams.
Woo!
So we are in the process of completing a 5-month intensive training program that teaches and models all different aspects of planning, creating, and operating a permanent supportive housing program. That was, can you go back? So, again, I'm really proud of my team. Really, I'm just the guy who kind of sends out the emails and makes sure that we do our homework and comes to the meeting on time. But it's a really incredible team, and I did want to note that at the end of this training process, there's a funding opportunity, and our team is positioned to apply for that funding and move forward and actually break ground on a housing development that is going to provide permanent supportive housing and also deeply affordable housing for other members of our community, workforce housing for hospital workers, teachers, gig workers, people in the service industry. So that's something that we are optimistic about moving forward on in real-time brick and mortar.
Yeah, one more time.
The innovators who planned and designed the concept of the Athens Homeless Coalition, including Athens-Clarke County, and the people who created the strategic plan to reduce and end homelessness, came up with a brilliant idea to create a flexible housing fund. This is an emergency housing fund. It is part of the Athens Homeless Coalition budget to help individuals and families who have been approved for a housing program or are positioned to obtain housing, but have a financial barrier, either a security deposit or an application fee or another financial barrier, to provide emergency funding rapidly to allow those individuals and families to access housing as quickly as possible. The fund is also equipped to prevent individuals and families who are in danger of being evicted due to late rent or other emergencies or crises from being evicted, and therefore preventing those individuals and families from entering homelessness. So we are in the process of putting together the application process and the policies to disperse those funds, and we plan to start dispersing the middle of this year. Something that's the foundation of the Athens Homeless Coalition and has been from the start is learning from people experiencing homelessness. It is well established that any social program or healthcare program that includes input and meaningful decision making from the people they serve, from their clients and from their patients, greatly improves the chances of the success of that program. And so we believe in that 100%. And that theory, that mantra guides the work that we do. So even before I was hired, and you'll hear a lot more about this in just a couple of minutes, our board created a Persons with Lived Experience committee who immediately started holding listening sessions for people with lived experience to share their stories and their suggestions and their recommendations and to support each other. That was going on months before I was even hired, so I can't take any credit for that. We'll hear more about that later and about the information that we've gathered as a result of those sessions. So I look forward to hearing more about that from Catherine. Next step, sure. So the next step for that, we have hired a community engagement coordinator. That person starts work on Monday, and their role will be to help support Catherine in her effort and even further engage people with lived experience of homelessness to elevate those voices and inform the work that we're doing, and to guide and inform and provide recommendations to our elected officials and service providers in any way that they can. This is my contact information. I know we have a lot of speakers, so I definitely want to stop talking and let other people speak. But feel free to come up and ask me questions after our speakers. Feel free to reach out to me anytime or check out the work that we're doing on our socials. And I just want to end by saying that I believe the Athens Homeless Coalition is a coalition, and it's pretty well agreed upon that homelessness is a community issue. And that if you're in this room and you can hear my voice, I don't think anyone is in this room by accident. I don't think anyone came here today by accident. I think we're all here for a reason, because we believe in this community, and we believe in contributing and working together and addressing some of these really, really complicated challenges. So the coalition is here to support your work, and I'm asking you all to support our work, and let's work together and accomplish some great things. We have big goals. Thank you. Now I want to introduce Catherine Adams. She's been completely instrumental to the work that's being done with the Homeless Coalition to work with people with lived experience, and she's done some really incredible things over the last 12 months, and I can't wait for you all to hear about it. Thank you.
While Catherine makes her way up here, there's something I forgot to mention. So on your tables, you all have what we're talking about today, and there's some information on the back that I'll talk a little bit more about. And some of your tables have these question cards. And so if you have a question that you would like to ask to any of the panelists, if they spur something inside of you, or you came here with a question today, or have something for me or Michael, please write it down here, and Reverend Patterson is around here, and she will collect there she is in the back, and you can either walk those up to the registration table, or you can put your hand up, and then we will have an opportunity to answer a few questions at the end of the talk from the panelists. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
This is oddly my face. I didn't want to try taking it down. I'm Catherine Adams. I'm an associate professor of higher education. I'm a board member with the Athens Homeless Coalition, and I'm a person with lived experience in homelessness. I'm honored to also be the chair of the Athens Homeless Coalition Lived Experience Committee, which is composed of individuals with lived experience in homelessness, as well as advocates for meaningful change regarding housing and resources in Athens, Georgia. Our committee champions the sentiment, "Nothing about us without us." Our mission, as our mission is to amplify voices, challenge stigmas, and foster a more inclusive community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. One of the roles of our committee, as Michael had mentioned, has been our lived experience listening sessions. I just want to tell you a little bit more about how those started and where they are now. In August of 2023, the Continuum of Care Executive Committee, John Morris from Advantage Behavioral Health, Elise Strangle from the Athens-Clarke County Library, and Madison Sanders from Family Promise, began holding monthly sessions. These sessions were open to anyone who have identified with any type or length of lived experience in homelessness. The sessions are loosely facilitated. The dialogue covered a range of topics and included stories being shared, community being formed, ideas being built upon, and questions to be posed to service and support providing community. In January 2024, when the Lived Experience Committee of the Athens Homeless Coalition began facilitating these sessions, one of our members, Monica McGee, suggested that we host an additional monthly meeting. So now that we had two separate meetings, both in the day and evening, to better facilitate more voices. As well, we made the decision to close the sessions to only folks with lived experience. We began serving meals at every session as a small token of appreciation for our shared conversations. In our combined efforts, I can share that since August of 2023, there have been 22 listening sessions. These sessions have ranged in size from 2 to 38 people, and we represented over 220 persons with lived experience joining in on our discussions. From these sessions, we were able to capture major themes that we heard in the conversations to be able to share key ideas, challenges, needs, appreciations, and suggestions for our Athens-Clarke County community. As well, we discussed insights on service provider interactions, the role of our listening sessions, and suggestions for change, both as our group and for our community. But before we go into the major findings that we're going to talk about today, I want to share a bit about who we learned who we were in these sessions. We learned that we are people who have lived in cars, hotels, shelters, streets, couches, and encampments. We were born into homelessness, have childhood experience as caregivers, and/or are currently unhoused. Our faith is powerful. We have experienced sexual, physical, and mental abuse, as well as had loving and protective partners and families. Our anxiety is a concern. We have varying experiences in drug and alcohol abuse. Our credit is terrible. We've had issues with law enforcement. We are purpose-bound, and we seek to help others. We have trauma, and it is hard to heal when you are struggling to survive. And in several of our meetings, when asked, more than half of our room shared that they were employed full-time and yet still could not secure housing. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce ourselves, but what we are excited to be able to talk with you about today is our 6 key areas of focus that emerged from our listening sessions. As we share brief statements from each of our findings in the areas, we are happy to also have a community member that is joining us to speak further on each issue. Our first issue that we're going to talk about today is accessibility and availability of housing. Housing is a conversation at every single listening session. We discuss the difficulty in accessing housing resources and services, including the shortage of affordable housing, available shelter spaces, long wait times for services, and inconsistent or paused support programs. Here to speak more about housing accessibility and availability is Jenna Moon from Athens Community Council on Aging and Dr. Angela Pope from the Clarke County School District. We'll begin with Jenna and then hear from Dr. Pope.
Thank you, Catherine. First, I just want to thank Sally and Envision for putting this event together today. It's truly an honor to be in this room with all of you who are working tirelessly to address housing insecurity and inequality on a daily basis. So I work for the Athens Community Council on Aging. For those that don't know, we began as a small volunteer organization over 50 years ago and have now grown to provide 14 different programs or services and serve 27 counties in Georgia. One of our most well-known programs is Meals on Wheels, which you've all probably heard of. But today I'm here to talk about one of our newest programs, our Live Well, Age Well Housing Initiative. About 1.5 years ago, we were awarded American Rescue Plan Act funding, better known as ARPA, through Athens-Clarke County to begin this initiative. This initiative includes housing counseling, emergency assistance, and home repairs for seniors in Clarke County. Throughout the administration of this initiative, we've learned a lot about the housing needs that seniors are facing in our community. Many of their needs are the same as any other demographic, but they have some unique needs as well. We receive daily calls from individuals who are facing eviction, have been given a 60 days notice to vacate their homes, or whose rents have been raised to the point they can no longer afford it. Many of these community members are longtime residents of Athens who are being priced out of the homes that they've occupied for years. When we receive these calls, a lot of what we do is provide education about what types of housing may suit their needs. But the truth is, we simply do not have enough affordable housing, and because of that, the housing we do have is usually always full and can take years to get to the top of the waiting list. Some of these renters also have needs related to their age and socioeconomic status. A lot of them are facing a change in their health status, social isolation, and a lack of a support system, as well as a limited income due to relying solely on Social Security. For many of these renters, there is no simple or timely solution available. Even when affordable housing is available, it's not always accessible for our seniors. We've also seen an increase in the number of referrals we receive for community members who are experiencing some type of cognitive decline and are also experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. We've gotten calls from landlords and other service providers and even law enforcement. Some of them are experiencing homelessness because of the cognitive issues they're facing. These people are in a particularly vulnerable position and often are unable to care for themselves any longer, much less navigate the complicated process of obtaining stable housing. A lot of times these community members do not have any type of social support and no one to help them make decisions that could lead to a more stable environment. Even if they do receive some type of income, finding a housing solution that is affordable and also offers the type of support they need is a long and confusing process. We do not have any appropriate emergency placement or enough appropriate emergency placement for people with complex cognitive or medical needs. Another issue that affects our seniors who are experiencing homelessness or are housing insecure is that they require proximity to social services. Sometimes there may be housing opportunities in more rural areas. However, a lot of our seniors no longer drive and need access to public transportation in order to meet their daily needs. Medical transportation is a great way to get to doctor's appointments, but without a way to get out into their communities, they're left isolated and without access to groceries or social engagements that are so vital to well-being. We have so many amazing organizations represented in this room today who are working to provide assistance programs that are invaluable to our community. We work hard to stay abreast of what our community programs are offering, but it can be difficult to stay on top of which organizations have which funds at any given time, not to mention all of the unique program requirements due to grant stipulations. If it's difficult for us who are doing this on a daily basis, then just imagine how hard it is for our community members who may be navigating the housing system for the first time. This is why a lot of what we do is to help people understand the way subsidized housing works and to help them get through the application process. But the good news is, as part of our ARPA funding, we're able to offer a small amount of one-time emergency assistance funds to those who qualify based on age, Clarke County residency, and income. We've provided hotel stays for those who are experiencing homelessness or facing eviction, rent assistance to help prevent eviction, and utility assistance and even space heaters for people who have lost their heat. We know this money will go quickly because the need we see is so great. Just want to close by giving another thank you for the opportunity to highlight the unique needs of our seniors who are facing housing insecurity in our community. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Sally, for inviting us. Mrs. Gillis, my director, sends her regrets for not being able to participate in this great panel discussion. Before I start with statistics from the district, I'd like to provide you with context by which the school district operates as it relates to students and families experiencing homelessness. The federal law McKinney-Vento was established in 1987 and has been reauthorized since then. It was designed to minimize some of the barriers and obstacles that some families and students face in school when they are unhoused. Therefore, under this federal guidance, unhoused students are afforded rights that aim to protect them when they are experiencing homelessness. Under McKinney-Vento, the definition to determine eligibility is defined as lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. I do want to highlight that this definition is different from the HUD definition of homelessness. Some of my other panelists that work with the HUD guidelines can elaborate further on the HUD definition. However, as it relates to the definition that we follow as a school district, I will provide an overview of those statistics over the past 3 years. We have seen a steady increase in the number of students identified as McKinney-Vento. During the 22-23 school year, we identified 549 students, which spanned 280 families. Last school year, the 23-24 school year, we identified 682 students, which spanned 353 families. Currently this year, we stand at about 463 students that have been identified, spanning over 240 families. Last year alone, we spent over $15,000 to cover after-school fees for students that participated in after-school programming. During the 22-23 school year, that number was over $22,000. This year, we are at $10,000. Additionally, last year with ARPA funds, which Jenna mentioned, we were able to provide $11,000 in Hotels.com support to families and students. Currently this year, which those ARPA funds ended last month, we have spent $23,500, which, as you can tell, more than doubled the amount from last year. Not only have we provided monetary support to families over the years, we also provide uniforms, toiletry items, laundry detergent, jackets, socks and shoes that when they are available, and school supplies, which include book bags, pencils, paper, etc. Additionally, we provide transportation to students to school when they are no longer in their school zone. We also purchase a van with ARPA funds as well, which allows us to transport students when they are out of zone and to allow them an opportunity to be adequately routed on a bus. So as you can tell, CCSD considers the whole child, regardless of their circumstances. Moreover, the district provides medical and mental health services to all students. The district has several school-based health centers that are accessible to all students, not just those that are identified as McKinney-Vento. Those locations are Hillsman Middle School, Coyle Middle School, Clarke Middle School, Classic City High School, and all of these school-based health centers offer a variety of dental services, mental health services, and medical services, depending upon the clinic. Services range in cost from free to low cost. All of the clinic's information is also listed on the district's website.
Thank you so much, Jen and Dr. Bowe. A second key area that we had noted in our listening sessions were that conversations reflected the profound need for safe and supportive environments addressing diverse health challenges, such as reliable public restrooms, hygiene facilities, access to essential resources like medication and recovery centers, locating consistent and healthy daily meals, and shelter during inclement weather. Dr. Pope is going to speak a little bit more about the efforts of the Clarke County School District in working with children and their families in the area of health and safety.
So yes, I'm sorry. The school-based health clinics are what we're using as the district to provide some of those health supports that families experience. But again, that's not limited to just McKinney-Vento students. That's for students, whether they're McKinney-Vento identified or not. And so those health clinics, they provide immunizations. Again, they offer mental health services. They offer dental services. Again, it just depends upon the specific need that a student and their family may need at that particular time.
Thank you so much. Another key area we found was really in increasing transparency and accountability. Our conversations highlighted the need for systemic change to increase equality, reduce victimization, and empower individuals experiencing homelessness with a focus on better resource coordination and inclusive policies. We seek to increase transparency, clear communication, and collaboration to build trust and improve access to services while addressing discrepancies and misinformation. Here to speak more about transparency and accountability for services for those experiencing homelessness is John Morris, who is the team leader for Thrive, a community program through Advantage Behavioral Health Services.
Thank you, and I'd like to ask also, before I start, that we give a round of applause before I talk about transparency and accountability to Catherine and the work that she's doing with the Lived Experience Committee, because that is accountability. Thank you. Second, I want to acknowledge, we hosted a memorial service in collaboration with the Homeless Coalition in December, where we shared space to remember and honor the lives of those who have died. We've had 5 unsheltered deaths that I know of since that service on December 22nd. This is a regular thing in where we work, with the people we work and with the conditions of living outside. So I'd just like to acknowledge that before I start talking as well. Cool, thank you. So, transparency and accountability. First I want to talk about the coordination of resources and having inclusive policies. And what we're doing at the day center, we've talked about having better data of how many people are actually experiencing homelessness, how many people are in need of housing. At the Homeless Day Service Center, one of my colleagues, Tim, and our team started doing kind of our own mini trial version of coordinated entry back in the middle of September, where we started doing walk-in open access appointments 2 days a week for 2 hours for anyone who wanted to get oriented to our services, basically put their name as in need of housing and get kind of a 10 to 15 minute triage meeting one-on-one with a case manager. We've done those appointments with 266 households since the middle of September. So in terms of the need, we certainly do not have anywhere near the ability to house that many people. That is the level of the need, and those are only the people who can make it to our office at 10 a.m. on a Monday or Tuesday. In those appointments, we are very open and transparent with these clients. We tell them that we do not have the capacity to meet everyone's need. We tell them that, if this is how many people who have come in, we tell them exactly what they can expect, and often what they can expect is not that they will get housing anytime soon. That is hard, but that is honest, and that is being transparent, and that is holding ourselves accountable so we don't give people false hope. We also try to give them a tangible step to the next resource. We may not be able to give them housing today, but we're going to try for the people that we can do it, and we're always going to give someone a tangible next step to a resource that can help them today. We're going to give them a follow-up. We're going to schedule more appointments with them. We're going to invite them to keep coming back. We're going to try to hold their hand and connect them to the resources that they need. We also try to increase our, by having walk-ins, by allowing people to come directly in. That gives people direct access to be in front of a case manager and find out the different things, the different steps they can take to move in the direction of housing. One thing I also want to highlight that Advantage and a number of other agencies does is hire peer specialists. Hire people with lived experience and lived expertise of homelessness. Because if you have policies and procedures that are keeping people out or that are harmful to the people that they're intended to serve, having peer specialists on your staff is really helpful to balance that power and point out what's wrong, to point out the policies that are creating inequities within your own system. So it's really important that we hire peer specialists and that we also invite clients and be open to their feedback, even when it's critical, even when it's hard to hear. We have issue resolution forms, and we encourage clients to fill them out if they have problems with us at the day center, if they have problems with how they're treated by staff members. We take those very seriously and we follow up on them appropriately. Lastly, I want to say creating environments like the Athens Homeless Coalition is doing, where peers are empowered, where they're included, where their experiences are validated, where their successes are celebrated, where they can be in community with one another and share those experiences. That is also an important part of transparency and accountability. Accountability is designing equity into the infrastructure of our communities and of our institutions. It's inviting and creating space, reserving space, and going above and beyond to make sure those spaces are filled by people who have actually experienced homelessness and who actually can contribute to not only being part of this movement, but leading it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next finding was navigating systemic challenges. We realized that we had faced systemic barriers like limited assistance, rigid eligibility, discrimination, and unresponsiveness from service providers, leaving individuals feeling overlooked, misunderstood, and frustrated. Criticisms of politicians, societal neglect of the homeless, and a biased resource allocation were common themes that had been addressed in our sessions. The executive director of the Athens area homeless shelter, Olivia Amato, will speak more on how their agency works with clients navigating systemic challenges.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today and for being a part of this important discussion. We're so grateful to be here. We're grateful for your interest and for your involvement. I also want to express my deep gratitude to Dr. Adams, Sally, Michael, everyone who participated in the listening sessions. While I was not a part of them, I've learned so much from the insights that were shared. These conversations created space for the lived experiences of our community members to be heard, and that is invaluable. In my years of homeless service provision, I've heard similar stories from families. Stories like, we sometimes sleep in Walmart parking lots and use a quick trip bathroom to get my kids ready for school. All the shelters are full and I'm on a wait list for housing, but I don't know how long we can do this. Or I had to leave my home because mold was making my kids sick and I couldn't afford the security deposit for a new place. or I don't have my GED or the time to get it, so I can't get a better paying job to afford the rent. These are not just stories. They are the lived realities of families experiencing homelessness in our community. And too often, family homelessness remains hidden from the discussion and hidden from sight. So it's hard to know just how expansive this issue is in our community. It's children sleeping at a relative's house while their parents sleep in a car. It's families stretched between different places night after night, unable to keep their kids in school consistently because they're constantly moving. It's parents paying more than rent would cost in hotel fees because barriers like poor credit, past rental history, or the inability to pay a security deposit keeps them from securing stable housing. And what I want to impress upon us today is that this is not just a local issue. This is a statewide issue. So I'm going to give you guys some data points. Last year, at the end of the last school year, based on the McKinney-Vento data on the definition that you just heard, over 40,000 school-aged children were identified as experiencing homelessness in the state of Georgia. And that's school age, so that's pre-K and up. An additional estimated 14,000 children under the age of 3 faced homelessness during the most critical years of their development. And this statistic, this is one of the things that drives our work to reduce the barriers for families accessing support and housing and long-term stability. DFACS reported that approximately 19% of foster care placements cite inadequate housing as one of the primary reasons for removal of a child from their home. These numbers are staggering. Families in crisis are not just struggling to find housing, they're struggling to stay together. And that's why the work we do here in Athens is so critical. Athens is not immune to these challenges, but what makes our community stand out is how we work together to overcome them. So Dr. Adams mentioned I'm going to talk about the ways we respond, but I'm also going to talk about the collaboration that happens in order to support families navigating housing crisis, to overcome these barriers that were mentioned during the listening sessions. Our agencies don't operate in isolation. We coordinate, we advocate, and we innovate to ensure that families get the help that they need. At Athens Area Homeless Shelter, we provide emergency shelter, transitional housing with an educational support, rental assistance, and trauma-informed site support. Family Promise, one of our partner agencies, they expand that safety net. They also offer emergency shelter, diversion and eviction prevention, wraparound support. The Salvation Army offers additional emergency shelter, on-site support, youth programs. The ARC helps with security deposits, financial support. Habitat for Humanity, Athens Housing Authority, Athens Land Trust, they help create affordable housing solutions for families in town. Project Safe supports survivors of domestic violence needing immediate safe shelter, advocacy, and paths towards stable housing. Advantage, one of our incredible partners, offers mental health, youth programming, supportive housing, and wonderful collaboration. There are so many partners in this town, and we work really, really closely and really collaboratively to address the barriers that were brought up in the listening session. From the Clarke County School District, the Athens Community Council on Aging, I could go on. Everyone that is up here, the Sparrow's Nest, the churches, everyone that is up here works collaboratively in that support. Also at AHS, we respond to hundreds of calls every year from individuals and families desperately seeking stability, and we work diligently to provide clear referrals to partner agencies. Just as John mentioned, that clarity is a kindness. When we are clear about how you navigate these systems, it allows families and individuals a step-by-step, how do I get to where I need to be? Because it can be really confusing. So we work hard to reduce that confusion. We direct families to the right resources, doing our best with the capacity that we have to help make sure that they don't fall through the cracks and collaborate across agencies. And this is why our collaboration is key. Working together, we give families time to stabilize, time to heal, time to rebuild their lives. In the listening sessions, it made it clear that the eligibility requirements can be rigid, the income verification is slow, assistance is temporary, people feel overlooked and misunderstood. And to be frank, many of our agencies and those restrictions, our case managers would say the same thing. They are frustrated by a lack of funding, they're frustrated by the requirements that are put in place that are far outside the realm of our control. But what I can also tell you is that the case managers at Athens Area Homeless Shelter and all the partner agencies that are here and that support the homeless serving individuals that support those experiencing homelessness in our community, they are creative, they are innovative, and they work to fill those gaps.
Woo!
Yeah, that I agree. So when one program can't assist a family due to funding rules, another steps in. When a voucher isn't accepted, we advocate for a willing landlord. When there aren't enough shelter beds, we coordinate hotel stays, rental assistance, diversion programs. This is how we fight those systemic barriers, by refusing to let them be the end of the road for families. So I'm going to share a couple of examples of what that collaboration looks like. So a recent shelter resident at Athens area, they were an elderly veteran raising their grandchild. They came to our shelter. We have 45 days that we're able to offer in shelter, and our network worked together. Our case manager at Athens Area Homeless Shelter helped her navigate the veterans' housing assistance. Shout out to the VA. They are here today. Thank you so much. Yeah. We were able to help her get her housing assistance application through. The Athens Community and Council on Aging connected her with the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program. That housing voucher was approved. Our case manager helped find a landlord who would accept the voucher. That is one of the barriers that we face. Hope Springs, another organization in town, provided furniture. Her VA advocate found a way to secure her spot while they navigated the red tape. Yes, Miss Luke is here today. And as I speak, this family is preparing to start a fresh start made possible by a community that refuses to let families struggle alone. Another example, a large family in our community recently lost their housing and struggled to find shelter because most programs couldn't accommodate the size of this family, and a lot of times that is what happens for families. If you have 3 children or 4 children, it is very difficult to find housing. If you have more children than that, it can be even difficult to find shelter. So commissioners stepped in with Gap Hotel support, Advantage stepped in with hotel voucher, many other agencies stepped in with clothing, with all kinds of assistance and support. Family Promise is providing support once the family moves into their home that Advantage case managers are actively seeking, and this family is currently staying at Athens Area Homeless Shelter, and we are working to support them the best way we can, spreading amongst multiple rooms so that we can accommodate a larger family size. This is the kind of collaborative, rapid response that's not just about housing, it's about keeping families together. If we don't act, we risk more children being removed from their parents simply because they're experiencing homelessness. And that puts a burden on our state and has a generational impact on our community. Our work is not just about shelter, it's about family preservation. And I know I probably need to wrap up, so I can get long-winded. The last thing I'll say is that another barrier that was mentioned in the listening sessions is time, the resource of time. And so I can tell you that these agencies, we are working together to give families time to work through their housing crisis, to work towards stability. We have a program at Athens Area Homeless Shelter that gives even additional time so that a parent can get an educational degree or certificate so that they can increase their income and they can move from experiencing homelessness to planning for their future and for their kids' futures. So I'm going to leave you with one last story. We had a family that moved out of that educational support program in March. She had graduated from her educational program. She had moved into rental assistance, into a rental house without assistance. She did not need any kind of state assistance or assistance from our programs after that. She was able to increase her income and afford her rental. And now, in October, she let us know that she is pursuing buying her first home. So that is the generational impact that we can have when we are innovative, when we are aware of the different supports, and when we come together realizing the barriers that families and individuals are facing and are collaborative in our response. So I just want to thank all the agencies in here for your collaboration, your innovation, and for everyone to be here to learn about the incredible things that are happening here in Athens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Our next area is community awareness. There's a strong desire for community connection empathy, and dignity, with a focus on reducing stigma and creating spaces for interaction between housed and unhoused individuals. Our conversations highlighted how overcoming societal misconceptions about homelessness could foster greater collaboration and support between Athens, UGA, and the broader community, while highlighting the importance of public safe spaces. Jamie Scott, lead servant from Sparrow's Nest, will tell us more about the need for community awareness and understanding for our neighbors experiencing homelessness.
Thank you so much for coming this morning, taking out a time of your busy schedules, man. I see so many people in this room, and if you look around, this is what community looks like to me, whether it's the police department, the chief that's on the panel, both of those guys, the sheriff department, Art with Brandy doing great work over there with recovery. My friend Dr. Muhammad from over at UGA, where we did some study test business people, my great and good friend Steve and Charlie Upchurch and other distinguished members. I see all you guys out there. Thank you so much for coming out. So the Sparrow's Nest, the core and the heartbeat of our ministry, just the one sentence is that we exist to save lives. We're a 501c3, we're a church. We don't have steeples all up on the buildings or whatever else. I don't know whether you'll catch me in my UGA gear just about every other day, if not every day, when Bulldog season is in. But what a person can receive assistance for when they come through our doors from a social service standpoint is for IDs, birth certificates, prescriptions of non-controlled substances, also bus passes to get them, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, relocated back with their family members, or to receive some type of substance use disorder treatment or mental health challenges that they may deal with. We have a food pantry, and I'm so grateful for Aaron and the work that the food bank does for us with those that are struggling with food insecurities, how they partner up with us. We have a clothes closet, shower facility, laundry facility. We serve a hot breakfast and a hot lunch out of our kitchen 5 days a week. And we also have some classes that are called Breaking the Cycle, that are therapeutic evidence-based for people who are struggling, whether they are returning citizens coming from out of prisons back into the streets. We pay them. We have stakeholders who participate in their graduation, which is a hat and gown ceremony, and we've had some good success stories to come up out of that with people, different agencies and businesses that we partner up with to help them get jobs, those that we think that may be fitting or ready for that. Last but least, what we do, we have a program called Clean Streets with a Z on the end. I like a little swag to things, right? They said, Jamie, with a Z? Yes, with a Z. All right, okay, yeah. But anyway, it's called Clean Streets. We identify 12 homeless clients that are in our community. We provide them with work material. We give them a breakfast, a lunch. We pay them cash money to go out and do work at different places. The last place that we were at for as a business, I want to just say thank you, Steve, for allowing us to come over and do some work around there, some tedious things, and just the way that you partner with us and so many other people. The Clean Streets program is very dear to my heart, and I'll tell you what kind of got it started. It was a Saturday. I was going downtown to Little Italy's. I had my family over. I'm getting ready to pick up some pizza, and I see this guy walking up the street up under the trestles when you're coming, going up, heading to downtown, coming from North Avenue. And I said, man, where's this guy picking up? And it was hot outside, and he had this hat on, so I couldn't stop, and traffic kept moving. And then on the way back, I see this guy again. The hat is off, and he's just dripping in sweat. And I looked. I'm trying to see who this guy is, and it was the Mayor Kelly Gertz who's back there on a Saturday, right? Now, I'm just telling you what. We're going to push political agendas out of the room or whatever else. And I seen that, and it convicted me. I said, oh man, hold on. If the mayor is out here doing something like this, surely, Jamie, you can do something. I huddled my board up. That's how Clean Streets got burnt out, and we're so glad to do that. Now, the topic that I'm here to kind of talk on today is, community. We're a day shelter, so we're not a night shelter. So that plays an important role, even though we're just a day shelter with the services that I told you. Because if you're in a night shelter, you have to leave during the day, right? You have to go somewhere, when that temperature has been 20 in the 20s or whatever else, we host them to come in, and we'll let them get a little longer stay inside or whatever else. It is very vital. It's vital to our community. We are a part of the community, and I'm glad for the assignment that the Lord has entrusted upon me to steward those responsibilities. I'm grateful that the Sparrow's Nest owns itself. The board doesn't own it. Jamie doesn't own it. The government doesn't own it. God owns it. So we are a day shelter. I want to share a quick story of empathy. So this is a story of Deborah. Deb, I would just say Deb. Deb comes through the door, comes through our doors. The officer is in front of her, and she says, "Hey, Jamie, I gotta find this guy. Look what happened to her." And she steps into the room, and her face is blistered up. It's blue, it's green, and it's black. Lips, all this, and it's bubbled, blistered up, neck and everything. And I said, and she's an attractive woman, even in her shortcomings, her struggles, and her the things that she deals with. And I said, "No. Damn, what happened?" She said, "He threw one of those canisters in my face, Jamie, that we had at the campsite, that you used to warm the food up with, the pans up with, and he throwed it in my face." And she said that stuff was so hard to wipe off because it sticks to your skin. It's like a glue. And I said, "Oh my God." Or whether it's the story of my friend Bowleg, who comes through, who had one leg amputated because he was homeless, and he was at an encampment and he stepped on something and it agitated his feet, and he come to us, and we began to try to help him as much as we can, take him to the hospital, whatever else. He calls me and said, "Jamie, I just want you to pray for me, man. They didn't cut off my, they said it was just going to be the foot. They went up the leg. They went over the kneecap. Can you pray for me?" Or if it's of the several people who we have done memorials for all through 20, 22, 23, 24, and going into 25, where we have a memorial service for our friends. We let the homeless community come up and share about what they meant to them, so on and so forth. Bring out flowers, have a cooked meal, and just being able to be there for them. So when we look at, or when we see homelessness, I know at times it can be agitated or whatever else, so on and so forth. When you see some here, you see some there, or whatever else. But, at the end of the day, these people don't live forever. We don't live forever. And we try to have that empathy to try to help the ones that could probably go from A to Z, and for those that just may go to A to C. Last but least, our hopes is just in the classes that we're providing through breaking the cycle, and we hope that they'll get some type of sustainability. Thank you so much again for coming this morning. God bless you.
Thank you, Jamie. That will segue nicely into our sixth and last sort of theme of our listening sessions, which is personal empowerment and change. Our conversations emphasize the transformative power of hope and resilience and self-empowerment, with a focus on community support, skill building, and employment as a tool for rebuilding our lives. We advocate for proactive approaches that dignify our experiences and encourage personal growth, emphasizing the significance of storytelling and peer support and breaking down societal stigmas. Finally, we have Matt Marston, who is the senior minister of First Baptist Church, who we can learn from about the importance of personal empowerment.
Thank you. I'm glad to be the least qualified speaker up here today. Someone's got to do it. I have no data or anything like that. I've just got some stories about personal empowerment, I would just say through friendship, that we've seen kind of outside the official channels at our church. First Baptist has had Family Promise offices there until recently, and then our Daily Bread, of course, serves meals 5 days a week, breakfast a couple, and lunch every day. But what has been most beautiful and in many ways challenging has been the kind of friendships that have formed between members of the congregation and the persons experiencing homelessness around us. I don't know how to extrapolate any kind of public policy results or proposals from what I'm saying. I'm just going to tell the truth, but tell it a little slant. What has happened over time is friendships have developed between folks who live close outside to our church and church members. To the point, I moved here in 2020. One of my first months, it was a Friday afternoon, I was working and I smelled something in the building. And I knew what it smelled like. It smelled like a fish fry. And I walked down into the kitchen. This is totally off the books, was not technically supposed to be happening. And there's a party happening, there's music being played, and folks that I had recognized from our daily bread were frying fish with a couple of my church members. So I pulled up a chair and ate for free and did no work. We've had these beautiful, and we've also gotten to witness the kind of community that can happen even outside of shelter when people look after and love each other. Some of our church members, I'm thinking of Mary and Connie and Doug and Al and Jill and others, over time have relationships that are no longer I'm helping you, but we're helping each other. We're friends. We've seen one person through just friendships outside of the agencies, the good work that's done up here, but kind of fugitively, one person has entered into permanent housing and employment. One person named John was moved to a care facility to live out his last days, not alone and with friends. I don't know what it means, how to connect it to the work done throughout the city that of course we need, but it's also an important reminder to me to know that just because people are experiencing houselessness doesn't mean they have to be completely without a home or a taste of home. And so often I think that occurs through the small gift of friendship across barriers, across divides, when it's no longer us and them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we're clapping all the time. It's good for you. Can we give one more round of applause for everybody who's on the floor? As well, thank you all so much for listening to the voices of those that we have had the pleasure to learn from in the last year and a half. I sincerely appreciate this. As someone who grew up and never thought they'd be in a space to even be able to share with you, let alone everything else, it's because of people like you. So thank you in multiple ways. I'm going to turn the mic back over to Sally for our final two speakers. Thank you very much, everyone.
Before we speak to our members of law enforcement who are here today, I just want to remind folks that if you have a question that you would like to ask, please fill out the question cards that are on your table. Those can be collected by Reverend Patterson. You could take them up to the top registration desk if you decide to. We'll probably have time for about 3 of them. Also, you'll see on the question, on the piece of paper that you write the question on, we were very strategic in letting you know that we know we're not going to have time to get to everybody's questions today. However, whatever category that question kind of fits in, I will make sure that someone contacts you back and make sure that your question is answered. It might be someone from this panel, it might be myself. I'll make sure that there's follow-up, just to make sure we have that covered. So I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Harrison Daniel. Harrison and I have known each other and worked together for a number of years, and so I was delighted that he and Athens-Clarke County Police Department were able to come speak with us today. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Harrison. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Sally. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's really great to see such a group who is not only engaged, but also passionate about addressing this homelessness crisis we have in Athens and across the state and the country, quite frankly. Like Sally said, my name is Harrison Daniel, and I'm Deputy Chief of Police over operational support for the Athens-Clarke County Police Department. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit with you all today about what we're doing and how we're doing our part. So the Athens-Clarke County Police Department has long recognized that the traditional law enforcement response alone is insufficient to addressing homelessness. So today, I want to share with you a few things about what we do, our strategic approach to addressing homelessness and responding to individuals experiencing homelessness. And then also let you know that our approach really is balancing both enforcement activities as well as alternative solutions to address the root causes. So ACCPD is tailoring the public safety response to homelessness through its behavioral health unit. Since 2017, we've operated a co-responder teams, and these teams pair specially trained officers with behavioral health professionals. These teams offer much needed crisis intervention, ensuring that individuals are not only seen and heard, but also they're linked to appropriate services rather than just being arrested or just being moved along. ACCPD is better preparing its first responders. For over 20 years, crisis intervention training has been part of ACCPD's mandated training. I say mandated training for new officers and dispatchers. Not just our officers, but we include our dispatchers because very often when people are experiencing crisis, our communications officers, our dispatchers are the first touch point with the police department. So CIT improves how we handle our interactions with vulnerable populations, including those experiencing homelessness, substance use disorders, and other crises. More recently, ACCPD has mandated advanced CIT training in addition to the basic course for officers and dispatchers who are seeking promotional and other advancement opportunities in our organization. ACCPD is coordinating information sharing through newly implemented software. This joint project with Advantage Behavioral Health System, the Clarke County Sheriff's Office, and other justice and mental health collaborative partners is allowing officers, social workers, healthcare providers, and more to share vital information about individuals' needs, as well as their histories, and then do so securely. ACCPD is also developing a digital card of regional resources that our officers can distribute on a day-to-day basis to people who are experiencing homelessness. It contains critical information about available resources, including emergency shelters, food resources, medical care, behavioral health support, and more. This card will empower individuals with information they may need to get help, and it'll do so regardless of whether they interact with our department or another agency. ACCPD is offering wraparound services through a newly created case manager position in our fellowship program. Our case manager is dedicated to providing personalized support and accountability to individuals navigating the complex social services system. This case manager helps them get off the streets and into stable housing, links them to behavioral health services, and helps them focus on long-term strategies for their successes. As one recent example of success, ACCPD referred an individual recently who was the source of multiple 911 calls due to behavioral health issues. So this person had recently lost their housing. They found themselves on the streets and without access to needed medications. Our case manager stepped in and worked diligently with the family as well as this individual and was able to secure them a new apartment as well as re-link them to much needed services. As of their last communication, I'm proud to say that our case manager reports that this individual is doing very well, and we have not been receiving any more 911 calls, so that's a really good success story. ACCPD also collaborates with community stakeholders more generally by having a seat at the table with groups like Continuum of Care Board, with Camp Crisis Response Team, as well as engaging with nonprofits, businesses, and property owners. ACCPD is better positioned to understand the various and at times differing perspectives on homelessness in our community and seek collaborative and innovative solutions. Finally, I want to take a moment to recognize the complex and often thankless work of our police officers and our dispatchers. Every day they must remain professional, calm, and controlled in the face of danger and during rapidly evolving and highly dynamic situations. I'd also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that despite our efforts, our initiatives, and our alternative solutions, ACCPD is first and foremost a law enforcement agency. And our police officers are still obligated to address criminal activity and enforce the law, even when someone's facing difficult personal circumstances. But I'll say that we do ask them to do more. In conclusion, Athens-Clarke County Police Department is deeply committed to working with our partners, expanding resources, and offering compassionate responses to homelessness. We know there's no easy fix, but we can make a meaningful difference through awareness, innovation, and collaboration. As we continue to address this issue, we must remember that homelessness is not a reflection of a person's character, but rather it's a challenge that we all have the responsibility in our community to address. So together with compassion, with commitment, we can create a community, hopefully, where everyone has a chance for a better future, and that's what we're doing at ACCPD. Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Harrison. I did not know Chief Deputy Frank Woods until I was in a meeting with him. I can't tell you when it was because months meld together this time of year, but it's been a couple months ago, and I was very impressed at the way he spoke about the services that our Sheriff's Office provides, because a lot of folks experiencing homelessness find themselves in this revolving door of being arrested and then facing incarceration, being released, and being arrested again. And so I asked him to come and highlight some of the programs that our Sheriff's Office is doing to assist folks who are experiencing homelessness. So I'd like to turn it over to Chief Deputy Frank Woods. Thank you.
All right, I have to stand up to speak. I don't know why. So first of all, she gave the introduction, and I appreciate that. So like she said, I represent John Q. Williams here at the Sheriff's Office. My current role is Chief Deputy of Jail Operations, so I'm your jail administrator here in the county. I want to talk a little bit about some of the programs and what we're doing, but I have to be honest, in standing here, I don't feel like I'm good enough to be here. When I look around the room, I look around the room and I see, I can't spend the whole time doing it, but Chaplain Cole Napper, all that you've done for us in this community. Danny with Alliance, helping us out, thank you. I could name drop for an hour and it wouldn't be good enough. So when I say thank you for being here, I really appreciate everything that you do. So a little bit about Rex. I've been with the county for 3 years now, and when I came on board, Sheriff Williams wanted to start a reentry program. Because there are so many great resources, what we found was that the incarcerated population in the jail didn't have a link from the jail to those resources. So what we did is start a program called REX, and it stands for Reentry and Quality Support. And we take a bifurcated approach. So that is pre-release and post-release. And if you know anything about the jail, you know that it's 87% of our population are pre-trial, right? And it's very fluid. Some people are gonna come in and be there for 2 hours. Some are gonna be there for 2 days. And I've got one person in our jail right now that's been there over 900 days on 2 misdemeanors, waiting to go to DBHDD. It's a challenge. So it's a very complex population. And as humans, we're complex creatures, right? So the way we begin is we look at those individuals who can't advocate for themselves, and we need to capture that right at the beginning when the person is first coming in, because we know we may not have a whole lot of time. And then we look at persons that want help, that need help, that are asking. So how do we get them the resources? So I'll give you kind of a background of what it can look like a case study, if you will. Got a guy who had been to our jail more than 10 times in less than 6 years. All of his charges are drug related. Every time he comes to jail, he's very unhealthy. Every time he comes to jail, he ends up on what we call a worker status because he doesn't violate rules. And he's never been involved in any kind of reentry services. He goes right back out and he gets right back on the drugs, and he's already over the limit where somebody probably could have died from a relapse, right? So meet with that individual, and here's what it looks like. First, hey, I've seen you come in a lot of times. What can we do to help you? Well, we know the why matters. So why is it that he keeps coming back and getting on drugs again? Why does he keep doing that? I don't know that, but we have a dynamic medical program where we have outstanding counselors, therapists, we have a psychiatrist, and we have a medical doctor. So we put him in front of the psychiatrist and the medical doctor. Is there a component with depression or something that goes along with that? It's not for me to decide, that's for a provider to decide. So we set him with that person. We talk about, if it is OUD, how do we link this person with MAT services? Not only link them, but how are we going to make sure that that we're able to pay for that? Then the hard part, which is housing. Where's safe housing for this person? So this person ended up getting with PLR, if you know Shane Sims, so great program. So we get the person with PLR. We know several people in the construction industry, so we bring them in, we actually do a job interview with them in our conference room to get this person a job before they get out. So this person's been out for about a year now, and he's doing pretty well. That's just one. But I know we're here to talk about homelessness. So I will tell you with reentry, while it's complex, our hardest thing is safe housing. Very, very difficult to do that. And I can tell you whether we're calling John with Advantage or Michael Bean, Salvation Army, we're always calling somebody for safe housing and trying to get somewhere safe for people to go. And so while I did a little bit of name dropping, I can tell you so many calls that we've made that we're always calling, can you help me with this person? Can you help me with this person? And we started a program called Future Foundations. And thanks to Habitat for Humanity, we took a population of females who are incarcerated. It's all volunteers, not an inmate work detail. And they come out every Saturday, and we work on building homes. So they're doing two things. One, learning how to build homes, learning how to get a job that's a living wage job where when they do get out, they can make a living wage. And the other thing is these tiny homes we're building, not sure where they're going to go yet, we're working on it. We'd like to create some kind of transitional housing. So again, it's trying to build that. If I may, before I sit down, Lieutenant Davenport and Cindy Phillips, they're part of the reentry group. So you probably have already gotten a call from them. If not, you probably will be getting a call from them because we're looking to help, and we need all the help we can get. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, panel. Hey, I'm going to get to put you on the spot. You thought you were finished, but you're not quite finished. We had lots of questions, and some of them fell in similar veins of topic area, and so I have three that I would like to ask that that we saw several folks come in with the same type of topic area. The first one I think I'm going to pick from is mental illness, mental health issues, and homelessness. And so I would like whoever feels like they can speak to it to offer us some more information about any sort of data points or statistics you have with the connection between mental health issues or mental illness and homelessness. The question was specifically, what is being done for those experiencing homelessness who also have mental illness? John, I'm looking at you. Somebody pass the mic to John, please. And then anyone else who would like to answer as well.
Okay, before I address that question specifically, I want to address a larger topic, and this comes, asked for data, so I'll give you data. There's an excellent study of the 35 largest cities, metropolitan areas in the US that looks at what is the difference in per capita variation of homelessness across city to city to city to city. So why does Atlanta look different than Houston, than Chicago, than LA, than New York, than Detroit? When you work the number down, and I'm econometrics trained, I'm a data scientist at heart, even though I don't use it that much in my job. But the data showed, when you run a statistical analysis on it, that mental illness and substance use disorder and a number of other personal reasons did not explain the variation of per capita variation from city to city to city. The cities that were doing the best in regards to housing and homelessness per capita compared to others were cities that had either less housing demand or relative to the other cities, less housing demand and a higher housing supply elasticity. They were able to demonstrate through data and develop a very strong causal argument that boosting the housing supply elasticity changes how your city responds in the per capita homeless rates. Now, what their data did show is that the mental illness and the substance use disorder is a great indicator of who will be homeless in a city and in a structure and housing market that has designed structural homelessness built in because of the way we allocate our housing resources. So I'll say that there is a strong connection between mental illness and homelessness. I think a lot of people who experience homelessness do survive very harsh conditions with severe, persistent mental illness. There's often a back and forth causal relationship there where the mental illness led to the homelessness. Now the homelessness is more trauma, that leads to more mental illness. That mental illness leads to more substance use disorder, that leads to more trauma, that leads to more mental illness, greater need to use, more trauma, and it feeds and perpetuates itself, and it's very challenging to get out of. That being said, I believe that the number of the people who are homeless are often those with mental illness because we live in a system that has designed homelessness built into it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So we have anywhere on the low end of 55 to 100 plus or north of 100 people come through our doors every day, right? We're dealing with those who struggle with, who are displaced or less fortunate, right? I agree with John said, you know, it isn't either or, it's both and. It's mental health and substance use disorders along with homelessness. I see a spike, a scary spike. Now you say, well, Jane, I'm not here to scare you, whatever. I'm just telling you what I see. You know, that comes to our doors. Our window got busted out or whatever else. We have someone to come through, say, man, okay, I can't get this. I'm going to blow this place up and blow. You know, I'm grateful that we're able to have, not security, but the police department at hand or whatever else to help us do it. And I'm not saying incarceration is the answer to it. But I remember, I'm 54, I'll be 55 soon. I remember back in the days, now some people they may call it I don't know what else, it was Reedsville, not Reedsville, Milledgeville. And as I look at this, with people with the drugs that are coming down the pipe now, you know, they come through, I may have a guy to come through the door, and he ain't saying nothing, he just sound like a wheelie. I'm not saying that to be funny or anything, really tweaked and geeked out their mind or whatever else, or someone who's talking to themselves more common. If you pay attention in the streets as you're riding down the streets now, you're seeing that more, with a person talking to themselves more. This is just my observation. I'm not the stat guy. I don't have that expertise like John or whatever else, but I can tell you what I'm seeing. So what is being done for it? I think even the government is trying to figure this out. No one has figured this out that I know of. And if you have found someone that figured this out, please tell me so I can do a warm handoff with some of our clients that come through the doors. So it's a situation that we need to just pray about and just see what's in the making. I'm grateful for Advantage. All they do housing or whatever else. But if you're mentally ill or you're struggling with substance use disorder, I can move from Athens to New York. If I haven't addressed the problem has moved with me from Athens to New York. So keep us in prayer, the ones that are doing this work, and also the ones who are struggling with that in the community. Thank you.
Go ahead, Harrison.
So in the last few years, I know from the police department's perspective, we've seen the level of homelessness increase, and then at the same time recognizing that intersection of behavioral health issues, substance use issues, and things like that with homelessness. That's why we have expanded our co-responder teams. And so our co-responder teams, originally it was just one. It's now 3, and we're hoping to continue growing. But their sole focus was behavioral health, but recognizing that intersection, we expanded their mission to more proactively reach out to, engage with the homeless population, and then also assist our officers responding to calls. You know, daily we get calls from property owners who say, hey, there's a tent on my property and I need this person to move. And that person is likely experiencing behavioral health issues, substance use issues, and things like that. And so we've expanded that mission of our co-responder team so that when we do go there to address the needs of the property owner, we're putting more concerted effort into also addressing the needs of the individual who's there experiencing homelessness and is looking for a place to go. So that's been something that we've done.
And And sometimes that, when that officer does have to make that arrest and that person ends up in the jail, that's that opportunity that we have, that we take to reach out to the public defender's office, reach out to the solicitor's office, Advantage and everything else. And is it a detox from drugs? Is it a person who's experiencing psychosis that we need to find out what medications they're on? We have a pharmacy, so we're going to go and start back on those medications. And even if we only have a few days to try to link that person with what resources they need to get them back where they need to be.
You go ahead, Olivia. Yes.
And I just want to highlight the impact that the mental health burden of experiencing homelessness has on families, because I think a lot of times that's not something that comes straight to mind. For kids that are not knowing where they're going to stay at night, and then having to go to school the next day and navigate school, tests, things like that, that burden is really heavy. And so when they come to Athens Area Homeless Shelter in 2021, we began a program called Strengthening Home, and it is a trauma-informed program that was started through the support of the Athens Area Community Foundation. And it is weekly kids groups that are therapeutic-based. It is run by a trauma-informed MSW at both of our sites. We work hard to connect with counseling services that visit schools. We work hard to connect with counseling services through Advantage and other community partners. Because the parents and the kids that are navigating this instability are feeling that mental burden as well. And it's sometimes not as a parent, but if you ask a teacher, you probably will hear the stories of that impact. And so that's one of the things that we do at Athens Area Homeless Shelter, along with our partners.
Great, thanks. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, and something that just popped up for me, I didn't know a whole lot about the topic of homelessness when I started this work 3 years ago. But let's be real, a lot of us have been impacted by mental health issues and concerns and substance use disorder. A lot of us in this room today are housed. So we get that extra support and safety of when we're feeling some type of way or someone we love is going through something, we have a safe space to experience that. When you don't have a safe space to experience that, that further impacts the trauma that you're going through from a mental health issue and from substance use. And it's really hard to get well when you don't know where you're going to be that night. So if we could work on folks finding a safe space to stay, then they can start moving forward on helping themselves and helping those around them that have mental health issues and substance use disorder. Yeah, thanks. I know some of you might have to go. We're going to take one more question before we leave. But something I just want to, on the back of this State of Homelessness event sheet, if any of this information you guys have learned today have asked you to have called upon your heart and you feel called to serve even in more capacities than you already do, there's 4 amazing agencies that work with folks experiencing homelessness on here. There's Family Promise, and we have representation from Family Promise here today, Bigger Vision, Divas Who Win, and Project Safe are here. And also there's some data on your table about the Athens Area Homeless Shelter as well. There are QR codes on here that take you directly linked to their volunteer pages. And they've got vast volunteer opportunities from serving meals, helping clean up, or being a board member. So those are ways that you can continue your impact. One last question that I have that I'm going to direct to Michael Bean. Can someone on the panel speak to the biggest factor that are driving the cost of housing and steps we can take to address them? I feel like Michael's a good person to answer this because of his work with the Housing Institute.
Thank you. And like most of the questions and most of the things we're talking about, this is an overwhelmingly complicated question and complicated topic. And I know it asks for one factor. I'm not capable to narrow this down to one factor. But I will say that these complicated issues, the team and the people you see up here today and the people in the audience, that we look at these challenges not to shrug our shoulders and say it's too much, but to figure out how do we parse these issues apart and how do we team up with subject matter experts and local community experts and get perspectives and try to break this apart and address these issues. So the question was about affordability in the housing market here. If I had to narrow this down in the most basic way, I would say it is supply and demand. It's a supply and demand issue. It's happening across the country. It's been evolving for years and years based on trends in construction and housing markets that I'm not equipped and don't have the time to get into. I will say it's a national problem and a state problem. I think Athens is also unique in a lot of ways for many, many, many factors. The University of Georgia, for all that it contributes to our community and all that it does for us and for members of our community, also applies pressure to the housing market here due to faculty, due to students, due to the expansion of student housing that takes place, the popularity of the University of Georgia and people wanting to attend here from all over the country and have the means for housing that is unaffordable to a lot of local people is certainly a factor. I could go into more and more. I know just thinking about since COVID and the trend to for people to work remotely or to work on a hybrid schedule now, people who might have previously lived in Atlanta and facing that housing market now can find Athens in a more attractive place to live, an attractive housing market, and work or commute to Atlanta or work remotely in Atlanta or places all over the country and all over the world. I think those are all factors. If you're interested, there's an article in the New York Times about SEC conference colleges and the effect that they have on housing markets in the communities, in the cities that those are located in, and that's something else you may want to look at.
Okay, we are going, the panel, thank you so much. Stop at 10:30. We're stopping at 10:30. However, the panel and I will continue to hang out until 11. I know a lot of y'all came here, maybe didn't get some answers to some of your questions. We are here to answer your questions. Also, I'm going to follow up with all the questions that were put on a question card that have an email address. Finally, there is a QR code at the bottom of your piece of paper that will offer you the opportunity to evaluate what we had going on here today. So please give me your opinion so we can make these events better moving forward. Here are the next 3 events coming up for Envision Athens. All of them will be held in this space. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope y'all have a great day. Thank you.